I'm going to tell you about this man who received his sight through the marvels of modern medicine. A man who had been blind through the marvel of modern medicine has now been able to see and receive his sight. They began to come and interview this man, and they wanted to find out, tell us, mister. Tell us something that you was different, that you had never seen before. Tell us something that you didn't expect, or you enjoyed seeing. And he came back with the normal answer that everybody would. Hey, you know what? I got to see my family for the first time, seeing their smiling faces. He came back with that answer. The reporter was wanting something deeper. So he came back to the man and he says, I want you to tell me something else. Tell me something that you did not expect to see, that just kind of marveled you when you all of a sudden regained your sight. Tell us something that marveled you. The man sat back and he thought about it, and his answer is recorded. He says, it marveled me to see the colors. That was okay. And he says, but one of the things that marveled me the most was seeing people go outside and clean up leaves. The reporter, what? He said, seeing leaves fall from a tree. That marveled me. He says, because the whole time while I was blind, he says, the way I thought it happened was that all the leaves came down like a blanket. He says, that's what I thought. He says, but when I had to be able to see, he says, what I saw was how the leaves come down, floating left and right, being taken away by the wind until they fall to the bottom. He says, that's how it comes about. They fall at different times. He says, that which seems ordinary to everybody else, it seems extraordinary to me. And I was saying, that's exactly how this text is portrayed. It may seem ordinary, your life and the way you see things, but God takes that which is ordinary and he makes it extraordinary.
Yes, he do.
God will do something extraordinary in your life, and you may not be able to see it now. You may not even be able to recognize it. You may be blind to it at this moment. But God can take your life and do something with it that no one else can. He can do something spectacular that will seem to marvel and befuddle the best people in the world.
Yes.
They will wonder, how can God work in your life like this?
Yes.
Well, there's some things you got to see that no one else sees.
Yes.
One of those things I'm going to tell you that you got to see that no one else sees is see your freedom. A lot of us don't see our own freedom. But this man had to see his own freedom. We're talking about blind Barnabas being able to see his own freedom. Now, seeing freedom can be difficult. You know why it can be difficult? It's because we're limited by our understanding. We're limited by our opinions. We're limited by our senses. And so since we find ourselves in a place of limitations, we can't see ourselves beyond that.
Yeah.
So here we have this man that's blind on the side of the road, and we get limited by our perception on what we see ourselves as. So when we see ourselves as something, that right there becomes our limitation because we feel we can't go beyond it. See, we say, I don't have certain things, and because I don't have them, I find myself feeling limited. I can't go beyond the limits that I even set for myself because it's my own perception. Barnabas has his own perception. I'm blind, right? I can't see. I can't do much. That's his perception. His understanding and his idea of his senses have gotten him limited. But that's what happens to us. We get limited in our scope, our perception, our understanding, as if your limitations are the end-all, be-all. As if that's the limitation. But your limitations really are simply the element that makes you unique.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
You didn't hear me. Your limitations are the element that makes you unique. It's exactly the thing that sets you apart.
Yes.
That makes you different from everybody else. Sometimes we see our limitations as the very thing that won't allow us and to propel us forward, but exactly the opposite. It's the very thing that makes you you. And makes you separated and unique from everybody else. Is the fact that you have a certain limitation. Ask that gentleman by the name of Nick Vujicic. You guys ever heard of him? Nick Vujicic. He writes the book Life Without Limits, or Limits or Life Without Limbs. This guy was born with no feet and no arms, no limbs. He's just a torso and a head. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else. And he writes in his book, Life Without Limits. He says when he was born, his own mother didn't want to hold him for a while. Then they came to the resolution that it was God's plan that Nick was this way.
All right.
And now Nick is this famous speaker and motivational person writing all of these books with no arms and no legs.
You're right.
Just a head and a body, and that's it. Now he's world famous, this guy, because of all this. And we sit up and say, well, I'm just blind. Nick had no legs. He can't walk, has no arms. He can't reach out and touch you. He can't even hug you if he wanted to. It's impossible for him. But he didn't allow the limitations that have been placed upon him that God had ordained to stop him. See, that was the thing that made him unique. That was the thing that set him apart. That was the thing that made him look different than everybody else. See, blind Barnabas, here he is on the road, and there he is, blind. Not everybody else can see. Everybody else has vision. But that's what set him apart from everybody else. And we think our limitations, they can keep you from trying. They can keep you from great success. But do you understand that it is failure through failure that you have your greatest success? It is through the time in which you've been turned down and said no, that success will come and roll in your door. See, because you got to understand, through all of the no's, all it takes is one yes. And one yes can change your life. That's all it takes. Just one somebody to come back and say yes. Yes to your will, Lord. Yes to you. All it takes is one. And see, you got to understand that the failures are simply the journey that we travel and we go to find our destination that God wants us to be at. That's the way you got to look at it. And so you got to understand, through failures, that comes your greatest success. And although you receive a lot of no's because you're saying I'm limited, I can't go any farther, and because of my limitations, I feel like I'm stopped, guess what? One yes, everything can change.
That's right.
In just a moment's notice. Why? Because your life should be an inspiration to others. They should look at you and all the failures and the limitations, and they say, look, because of all that, he's still, or she's still moving forward. She's still going, no matter all that's happened in her life, she is still moving forward. She has not stopped, she has not ceased to move, just because she's been limited by perceptions, understanding, senses, and whatsoever. Because no doesn't stop you, it just helps define your path, that's all. Y'all not with me yet, y'all not with me. See, but blind Barnabas was on the road, and let me tell you, while he was sitting there, I bet a lot of people would tell blind Barnabas, no. A lot of people would tell blind Barnabas what you can't do. They would say, you're blind. Matter of fact, since you're blind, why don't you just sit over here and just mind your own business? There's nothing you can do. But see, the fact that he was blind, remember, I was saying, your limitations just simply set you apart and define you differently from everybody else. So the fact that he was blind, now he says, well, you know what? I got some powerful senses. They tell me when one of your senses goes, the others get, you don't understand, they get stronger.
They understand.
See, when one of them go, they say the others get stronger. They tend to get stronger in what they, but blinded, guess what? I can't see, but what I can do is talk. What I can do is hear. This is why the text comes and says, he heard. Oh, Jesus coming. See, the other senses are elevated. See, you see it goes, and he said that he heard Jesus was coming. So he was using the senses that God has given him to reach out to the Savior that he needs. So he says, I can't necessarily see you, God, on the road, but guess what? I hear that you're coming. And because I'm using what you've given me, I hear Christ is coming. And guess what? I'm going to use something else, my voice. I'm going to scream out to an almighty my limitation, in my weakness, I'm right here for you, God. See, blind Barnabas, it says in the text that blind Barnabas, he said when he heard that Jesus was coming, the first thing he did was he began to cry out and scream out to God and say, God, you can change my life. See, God uses your limitations as the gateway to come in. God. He uses them simply as the gateway to be able to come into your life, affect it and change it. We say, well, there's no use in the fact that I'm blind. There's no use in the fact that I'm limited in my perception. I'm limited in my understanding. Hey, there is use to that because God takes these failures, he takes these limitations, and he enters into your life. And then through that, God begins to change every dynamic there is. And that's if you allow him to be able to do those things. If you see your limitations as simply the journey in which God is going to take you on and to bring you to somewhere else. Yeah. See, these limitations were just simply, Barnabas was being in the right place, right time. God said, I'm going to take your limitations, the fact that you can't see, we're going to use your other strong senses, the ones that can hear and speak. And those are going to be the gateway that God said, I'm going to use so that you would then be able to come to me. He comes and he screams out, he says, my request, God, is that you have mercy upon me. He says, I want you to have mercy on me. See, when does a person cry out for mercy? See, you got to say, okay, when does someone decide they're going to cry out for mercy? When they want someone to be lenient upon them. See, when they're hurting. Yeah. They don't want the pain anymore. Yeah. They're asking someone to give grace unto me. Yeah. See, they're saying, I'm hurting, I've reached my place. I want you to hold back the pain and say, look, when you have mercy on me, because I don't see a way out. Yeah. My limitations are here. I can't go beyond them. And because of that, I want mercy. Yes, Lord. Hold back that which I truly deserve, God, and give me something that is undeserving that only you can give. This man was crying to God, saying, hey, would you please, God, give me mercy? Now, what I'm going to tell you is that mercy doesn't mean that you're being self-deprecating or self-demeaning. No. No, on the contrary. It means you're giving yourself, releasing yourself into freedom. You're not there. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to shift the winds and we're going to get there. See, it's not meaning you're self-deprecating or self-demeaning yourself. But what it means is, on the contrary, you're releasing yourself to move into freedom. Okay? Okay? Well, how then, through this mercy, is this gentleman then going to release himself into freedom? Because he's no longer going to allow himself to be self-sufficient or needing self-validation. Yes. Oh, you're not with me yet. Yes. He's not looking for self-sufficiency or self-validation anymore. See, I don't need that. It doesn't mean I'm self-deprecating or self-demeaning myself. When I reach out for God for mercy, it means I'm releasing myself to be free in God. No longer needing my own self-sufficiency and self-validation, but now I get all my sufficiency and validation from God, who is the one who parts it out unto me, which makes me then no longer shackled or chained, but free. Oh my God. He said right now, I don't have to try to be good anymore. See, I don't have to try to be good. I don't have to try any of those things anymore. All I can do is walk in what God has given me. So then it releases me actually to be free. And now I'm not trying to do anything to bring myself up to make myself look good. I allow God to do it. So he comes and he says, look, have mercy on me because you are worthy and you're the only one who can do it, and you are the one who can raise me up when nobody else can. See, he became free. When he did, he released himself to then be able to claim his identity. Freedom then gives you the right to claim your identity, which is that which God has bestowed upon you. See, when he did that, at this point he becomes free. Now his identity is saying, I want to have my identity changed to be that which you have, God. Now I'm no longer free from trying to do all of these things in which society says I need to be and do and all of that. Now I'm falling under your umbrella. I am free to now move in the glory that God has given unto me. It gives me an identity that I'm taking off of mine and put it on yours. And I don't have to be good or worthy or anything like that. I seen Shaq. You got to know Shaq. You know Big Shaq. Everybody knows Shaq.
Oh, yeah.
Shaq has a son. His son had gotten a heart tumor or something like that on his heart where he was unable to play basketball. Shaq then came on the show and, he was talking about his son, saying, I hate the fact that my son has this heart tumor and that, he's going to have to go to surgery. But he says he's going to have to need to bounce back from surgery. It's Shaq. Need to bounce back. That's my Shaq impersonation. So Shaq was telling me he needs to bounce back and said when he needs to bounce back. Why? Because he said, he got to represent Shaq. The good name of Shaq. He can't mess that up. He said, because, I'm a famous basketball player and because I've made the, he did all that stuff. And he said his son, in order to be able to follow in his footsteps, is going to have to bounce back and be just as good as him. I was saying the pressure that's on that young man. The amount of things that are placed on, and that's how most people are. We don't want you to mess up our good name. When we built up our reputation and our status, and people know us all, don't mess up my name. That's basically what, don't mess it up. I took too long to create it. But see, when you're free in God, it's when God gives you his identity, he gives you the name of Christ and places you as a Christian, you can't mess up his good name. Unless you can walk on water and part the sea. You can't mess it up, baby. You can't mess it up. You can just simply walk in and just say, hey, okay, that's all you got to do. So it creates such a freedom and no longer the pressure that's being applied upon you. Now you receive free. So here blind Barnabas on the road screaming, I'm limited in what I can do. I see myself this way. Society sees me this way. But what I'm asking from you, hey, just have mercy on me. Give me a new identity. Take away my limitations that people have placed on me. I'm not self-demeaning myself or self-deprecating. No, I'm self-validating, releasing that. Now I just simply want to be under your umbrella. He says, I see my freedom is in you. See, you got to see what no one else sees. See your freedom that's only found in Christ. Look what else he said. He's got to release your faith. Now, in verse 49, he comes and he says, and Jesus stopped. I'm going to stop right there. When you release your faith, see, it's a belief that God can do something in you that no one else can do. So when you release the faith, it's releasing the belief that God can do something inside of you that no one else can do despite your limitations that you have. So you're releasing that and saying, I believe, God, that you can work with me. See, I believe you can work with me with whatever I have because I'm uniquely created because my limitations make me that way. They make me that way. And since I am, I'm saying, God, I'm ready for you now to use me in a way that only you can and no one else can. Oh, he was getting ready now. See, he's getting ready to release the faith. Now, in the middle of all these people, now you got to understand it was a crowd coming. Christ was walking. Everybody's chanting. Because they see him, and he's blind Barnabas. He only can hear. So he's screaming out, Son of David, have mercy. Hey, I'm over here, basically. I'm over here. Everybody else running and chanting. They over there. You need to be quiet. Hush it up. Because I'm trying to get over here to Christ, and nobody's interested in your problem. Let me tell you that right now. Nobody else is. They're not interested in your issues, your problems. They're not interested in what's going on in your life. They don't care. See, they're trying to get their own thing. That's the way it is. It's just the way it is. You better understand that. Everybody trying to get their own. That's the way the crowd. Everybody was wanting something from Christ. Somebody wanted some type of healing out there. He wasn't the only one.
Yeah, man.
There was a lot of people that cried. They were running behind him, chanting and carrying on. But in the middle of all that, he said he stopped.
Yes. Come on now.
He stopped.
Oh, hallelujah.
He had this blind beggar, and he says, why do these people want me to be quiet? Why do they want me to be quiet? I'm trying to get what they get. I'm in line too. I'm on it. See, he said, but to do all of that, to scream out all of that, you got to release some fears of what others may think of you.
That's it.
You got to do that. We have a hard time with that. I'm going to tell you how difficult it is for us. Look, we'll come into the church. I'm telling you how difficult it is for us to release what others think about us. Because we'll come into the church. This is our worship. Hey, we scared to raise the hands up. Somebody might look at me strange. We just raise a little thing. Oh, you laughing because you know it's true. See, that's where it goes. They find it rough just to come in here to praise God. So if you find that difficult, then just do that so you're still concerned with what other people think. Instead of releasing your faith in the atmosphere. Saying, I'm ready to encounter God. This man wasn't caring what y'all thought. Matter of fact, people would tell him, shut up. Quit trying to talk all the time. You're trying to get close to God. I'm tired of it. I'm trying to stand. They were doing him that way. So then he was saying, I want to express my faith. He said, I'm trying to express my faith. I'm trying to get close to God. I didn't care what you thought. You don't understand what God can do for me and what he has done for me. See, when he's done something for you, you'll dance like David. See, when he's done something, right, Shanita? I seen Shanita. See, that's when he's done something. See, but when you're trying to get there, see, he was reaching out saying, look, I'm ready to express my faith because I know God can do something. I heard about this man, how he changed his life. I've heard about what he can do. And guess what? I want some of that. That's when he's ready to release his faith. And look at what he does. He does something here that no one else does. Now check this out. In the text, what he does is he calls him Son of David. Oh, you don't really, you're not grasping what that really is yet. Okay. In the text, he comes and he says, Son of David. What that means is a prophetic salute. What that means is he's addressing him as Savior as a Masonic title. It was given to it back in Isaiah. I'm going to give you a little history. Given back in Isaiah. Now, wait a minute. Wait on this. You go to chapter 8 in Mark. And in chapter 8, there was this story. Christ was with his disciples. Disciples were walking with him. Peter turns around and he says to them, who do men say I am? And some say, well, you the Christ. Some say this. They just went on with these different names. Then he turns and he says, well, Peter, who do you say I am? He said, you are Christ, the Masonic title, Son of David. That's what he says he is. Wait, here it comes. In verse 30, same chapter. He turns and he tells them, he says, shh, you're missing it. He tells them, shh, don't tell nobody. Chapter 8, verse 30, he tells them, shh, don't tell nobody that I'm the Son of David, the Masonic title, the Savior. Y'all still ain't flowing. You still ain't getting it. Look. He tells them, look, in chapter 8, verse 30, shh, don't tell nobody I'm the Son of David. I have the Masonic title. So when we get over here to chapter 10, Barnabas is doing something that nobody else knows. He's seeing what no one else can see. talking and talking. God, but he's going, no, I know what he is. Barnabas is the only one crying out, he is the Messianic Savior, Son of David. And he wasn't supposed to know. How do you know? Yeah, how do you know? Because they were instructed, don't tell nobody. And if you're instructed, don't tell nobody. How do you get over here in chapter 10 and all of a sudden you know that he's the Savior, the Masonic one? How is that possible? Unless God himself does it. Unless through his blindness, which was his limitation, God uses that as the gateway to be able to come in. Come on. And through that, he sees what no one else can. And then he begins to release his faith now into the atmosphere because he sees what no one else is even calling out to see. He comes and he says, boom. And then this is what stops him. It was he knows me in a way that no one else does. That's what stops him. He stops. I hear, Peter, did you go tell? I hear something that I only told you, Peter, and my disciples. How did it get out? Oh, somebody else knows me in the way they do. Let me stop right here. Stops. They said in the text, it says, they stopped. He said, call him here. No, call that brother here. He knows something no one else around here knows. Call him here. Then he says, so why? They called him up and they said, oh, yeah, brother. Take courage. And he said, right now, at this moment, this opportunity, he says, courage then burst forth. You know, like this Superman comes out. Boy, you imagine God's calling you, you get the, oh, yes, God is calling me. All of a sudden, courage then bursts forth. And you know what courage is? It's ability to be able to act when others don't believe or disapprove of what you do. It's your ability, you see, it's your ability to act on the very belief you have when you may even feel in danger or someone else disapproves. They tell him, here's your time, here's your opportunity, here's your chance. You can stand up and move and go unto God with courage. See, the ability to move when everybody else disapproves and telling you, sit down, shut up, don't say anything. And when you may feel in danger of losing your occupation because, hey, I'm a beggar. That's my occupation. I get money that way. See, if I break out of that mold of how you see me, I got a danger of losing my income level. But he said, I'm willing to put all of that behind because I'm breaking out in courage because God has called me. I've been using this title to be able to call me, and he says he called me forward and say, come on down. I'm calling you now. See, sometimes we wait for approval or assurance of other people. You wait for See, when you're waiting for people to approve you and give you assurance to allow you to be able to move, you're waiting on the wrong thing. You only should move when God called you to move. See, when God tells you, it's a different thing. When God says, come here, I don't care what you think or how you may feel, but God is calling me. See, it's a big difference. And see, we shouldn't be waiting for the approval of men or what other people may think. And why we do that? Because we're afraid our little feelings will get hurt. You're worried about your little feelings getting hurt instead of moving and reacting how God wants you to. He said he's been called down. You know, I like this little show called NFL Prime Time. Y'all seen that? It's on, you got to have 212, right? With the NFL channel. I pay for that because I like it. I pay for it. I like it. I like that channel. I get to see all my football updates. I mean, I just turn that thing on everything. My wife want to turn it. Hey, what you doing? I love that show. Deion Sanders on there. He comes on Sunday night. Check him out. he got a little section on there where he gets the players, and he says he'll call them up if they play good that day. And he says, if you ball, you get the call. That's what he called. He said, if you ball, if you do well, if you do good, on Sunday, Dion calls you up. Said, if you ball, you get the call. I said, I like that. And then they talk about how well they did for the day. But see, the difference is with God is that he calls you first.
He do.
He calls you first. And then once God calls you, he expects you to ball.
That's right.
He expects you then to play good into the game. See, God expecting you to play. It's a big difference. Dion said, you got to play first and be good. God said, no, I'm calling you first and then let you be good. So here we are, this guy is calling, and God has called him to come forward. And he says he comes, he jumps up, and he comes with excitement. See, not everybody's excited. Not everybody's excited to come know God. Sometimes we get that excitement right off the bat, then just go down after that. You give 1 week of excitement, then, ooh, I'm on fire. Next week, I'm cold as ice. Next week, I'm cold. Oh, no. What happened to you? Ain't no fire no more. Fire done started burning out. Things got hard. You know, it got hard in Christ. And so it done got hard. And God want me to do things for him. And, just mess me all up. My fire is dwindled. I don't want it no more. But excitement, they said, excitement moves you from paralysis to productivity. Moves you from isolation to exposure. That's the definition, just Google it. It says excitement, what it does, it just moves you from being frozen to a point to where you're now productive. Excitement moves you, listen at Barnabas, isolation to now exposure. Barnabas was all by himself back there. You stay back here. Then all of a sudden Christ stopped. The sea parted of people. Barnabas, your turn to be exposed. You've been isolated, now you're exposed. Barnabas said he threw off his cloak. That's what the Bible says. He threw off his cloak. He jumped up and he got down there to where God was. They were telling him, look up, get up, and move on up. And he said, come on down here. God has something for you. See, that'll get you excited. It reminds me of The Price is Right. It gets you excited. You know how them people jump. Oh, I got the right price. And see, and then he asked Barnabas, what do you want me to do?
Yes, Lord.
I said, is that a trick question? Is that a trick question? Because he's asking, he said, what do you want me to do? You need to adopt the mentality of the soldier. What I say, go. Simple. What God said, that moves. That's what you do. When God said, get up, get up. God said, line up, you line up. Is that right? What it is? And your commanding officer has total control.
Yes, sir.
He's got he says, you got to learn now. You got to learn how to follow. And when you learn how to follow, you got to understand, God has complete control and autonomy of your life. No one else does. And he is the one in which we follow, and which we go after, and he is the one in which we do. Now this doesn't end blind Barnabas. Let me tell you something. See, we tend to say, well, the story ends right here. But I'm going to say, you go to Mark 14 and 51. They said when they were in the Garden of Gethsemane. They said when they were in the Garden of Gethsemane, said the disciples and others were there following Christ. They got there, and they said the soldiers came. And in 51, they said that there was another man that had been following him, has no identity. Some theologians say it was Barnabas, some say it was others. But all we know is that there was a man following him with no identity. Matter of fact, the man had a cloak upon him, wrapped around him. They said they stripped him of his cloak and he ran off naked. That's what the text said. Read it. I'm giving it to you. Could it have been Barnabas? I don't know. But all I know is that, hey, when it's time to follow Christ, you got to leave everything else behind. And go forward with what God wants you to do.